Welcome everybody to Service Drive Revolution, our coronavirus international version episode. We have an exciting show for you today. We are going to talk about the books that we're reading, which are going to be kind of fun to dig into. We also have a special guest today. William Roberts, but better known as Bill Roberts, is here, and we're going to talk about indirect time and your P&L statement. But first, gentlemen, have you guys seen the final Last Dance? And then did you see the Lance Armstrong? The intro to the Lance Armstrong?
I did not yet. I haven't finished up the Last Dance. I've been saving it. I really enjoy the episodes. So I've been saving my time when the kids aren't around to bother me. I want to finish those episodes at that point because I really get emotionally invested in these things, and the kids just don't give a they don't care.
So for anybody who hasn't seen them, ESPN did a 10-part series on the Bulls' last run in, was it 98 or what was the year?
It was 98,
Nice.
Chris.
Yeah.
98? Yeah, look at that. Adam's got the hat. And what's interesting about it is that they kind of said at the beginning of the season that it was Phil's last season. Everybody's contracts were kind of coming up. And the Bulls ownership kind of had resolved themselves to they were going to start over after that season. So it's kind of an all or nothing because you're not going to get another chance at this. So it puts a little extra drama on it that Phil Jackson, the coach, knows that he's gone after this year. And then a lot of the players said, well, if Phil isn't coming back, we're not coming back. And then the drama unfolds and ensues, and then they do a great job of going back in time to previous Bulls drama, and it's all behind the scenes. So you're seeing stuff you never saw from a fan's point of view when it was originally going on. I don't know if any sports team has ever had that sort of impact on a sport, on society, on commerce, right? Because of Air Jordan and the amount of money that he created for companies and just the NBA. David Stern says in there, we wouldn't be what we are if it wasn't for that team.
Well, it was also a start globally, right? Like you just talked about, I think that's where a lot of the different, companies saw sports as a marketing avenue, especially with Nike and Gatorade, right? And hitting that. I don't know. I remember as a kid watching, a lot of the games with my dad, obviously from our last video, but those last two episodes of Last Dance, man, that hit me. I remember the whole Utah Jazz fiasco going back and forth, and that was nuts. But you always had it somewhere in your heart. You knew they were going to come back, and they were going to get after it.
You forget how many Game 7s there were.
I know.
As great as the Bulls were, my grandfather used to say, my late grandfather used to say, they're only doing that for the money because they sell more commercials if they go to a Game 7. But yeah, you forget how many Game 7s there were, how many all or nothing, you go home or you win.
Yep.
It was epic.
What number are you on, Jeremy? Because Jeremy's trying to savor it. He's
I just
rationing
finished the
it
seventh
out.
one. Yeah, episode 7 I finished with.
Now, are you watching the 14 or the mature one?
The mature one.
It's funny, but they've had this footage for 20 years, and Jordan had first right of refusal, so he allowed the NBA to shoot all this behind the scenes stuff, and he wouldn't agree to anybody making it into a documentary up until recently. And perfect timing for ESPN that they have this content during Corona, because it's they're really good at making documentaries, and it's timely, because people are sitting at home with nothing to do and there's no sports on.
Yep.
So it lets you kind of go back in time, and kind of like hearing, how you'll hear a song and it takes you back in time and you remember. This kind of did the same thing for me. It brought back memories of my grandfather and, being that white kid that can't jump, pretending like he's Michael on the basketball court, right?
Come on, Chris.
Just-
You owned a pair of Air Jordans, didn't you? At least one.
No.
Oh, I bought a used pair right around that time. The red and white Air Jordans. Dude, I was washing those with a toothbrush probably like every other day.
No, bro, that was not in the budget when I was a kid. So my budget for tennis shoes, and like just imagine like also like you're growing, and I'd wear out a pair of tennis shoes like every 3 or 4 months. So it wasn't.
Wow.
I think the budget was $40 or something. Like the idea that shoes were $100 wasn't that was not in the plan or the budget when I was growing up.
Well, it was crazy to see how expensive those shoes were going for. The pair that I got was used from my friend's brother for $40.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh God.
Another guy from Chicago here, our Zoom hacker.
I love all the Bulls and Jordan talk. I also did not own a pair of Jordans, but I liked other people that did. So, Adam, for you, because I have a feeling that you're sleep deprived with that over at home. So, how do you make gold soup?
How do you make gold soup? Like, how do you cook it? Like the recipe for gold soup?
Yes.
I don't know.
Jeremy, I know you know this one.
I don't know.
Bouillon cubes.
You put 24 carrots in it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Hey,
Okay,
Chris,
the other thing that we learned from The Last Dance, and I've been so busy, but maybe later today I'm gonna call my doctor and just tell him he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Jordan would drink 2 beers and smoke a cigar before a game. He was smoking 2 or 3 cigars a day. Did you catch that? Like in the playoffs, he's like, well, I had 2 beers this morning and I only smoked 1 cigar. And then he goes out and scores 45 points. What's this 1 cigar a month joke my doctor's got me on?
your results may vary, Chris.
Yeah, there you go. There's a disclaimer. Your results may vary. He's got an athletic build and athleticism like no other.
You would describe my build as athletic. That's how you would describe my build as athletic.
But it's
If you
Jordan.
see me from across the room and you're like, that guy is athletic. That's how you would describe my build. You wouldn't say I'm skinny.
But you're not Jordan athletic.
If we are given 2 choices between
Well,
skinny and athletic, Chris, yes, you are athletic.
I would have if I could have afforded the shoes. It was the shoes that made him so athletic, right? That's been scientifically proven, is that it was the Jordans that made you be able to jump. Because a lot of kids would buy those shoes and all, like the day before they couldn't slam dunk, and then they bought the shoes and they were dunking.
Well, I think they had little springs in them too, right?
Something made them $110. Because it wasn't like even what was the Reebok one that had the pump?
Yeah, I remember seeing
That was
those.
$50.
Yep.
So it had all that high technology of the pump, and that was $50. So the Jordans had to have springs in them.
Or rockets.
Oh man, good time.
I still to this day have never owned a pair of Jordans. I have a pair of what is it called? Off-White? Off-White? Or no, it's the other brand. It's not Off-White. Fear of God. I have a pair of Fear of God Jordans. Whenever I wear them, people are like, how did you get those? Like this stylist gave them to me for a photo shoot. And I guess they're rare, like they didn't make very many. But those are the only Jordans that I have. They're Fear of God Jordans. They're red and black. And I've worn them twice.
I'm going to have to check that out. I think I might have a friend. He's obsessed with Air Jordans and Michael Jordan.
Tell them
I
the
think
Fear
I've
of
seen
God
those.
ones.
That's
I
crazy.
wear boots.
I'm going to
so-
smoke 3 cigars a day until I learn how to jump like that.
How high does the rim have to be?
So,
Fisher Price.
Mr. Mr. William Roberts, do you read a lot of books?
No, man. I read a few war books. We Are Soldiers is a good one.
Ooh, what's your favorite war?
There is no favorite war, but
Well, what's your favorite battle?
uh, the one that we are soldiers at X-ray, the landing zone X-ray, where they was surrounded by thousands of Vietnam enemy, and they had only one platoon, and they
Oh
survived the
yeah,
night. They made a movie about it.
Mel Gibson, right? I remember that one.
Yep.
Yeah, that one was good.
What?
Very
So
good.
what are the top books that you would recommend? Mine, by the way, is the Battle of Midway. But what are the books that you would recommend?
But the one that in my younger days, that I thought the most of was Who Moved My Cheese. Really and truly.
That's not a war book.
I know,
That's like a cartoon character for change.
but it works. I mean, we're talking
Who
about
moved my
management,
cheese?
but that was one of the first books I ever read that made sense to what I was doing.
Okay, but give me a couple war books. I want real
The Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers.
That was a good book. Um, can't think of the name of it. It's where they dropped the bomb on Nagasaki. The Nola Gay.
Oh.
The Flight of the Nola Gay is what the book name is.
Awesome. I'm gonna check those out. I like those kind of books because a lot of times they're heavy on strategy, and you got to make impossible decisions. that the outcome is never clear. Well, we've been doing this thing. If you've watched this, where we've been talking about books we're reading, and so what are you reading right now, Jeremy?
I'm reading Freakonomics. This is
that's
an
a good
older one, but this is a good book. I really like it because the author, he approaches problems from an economist perspective, but they're unconventional problems. Like there was one like, why do drug dealers usually still live with their parents? And then so he went into that story about a student that embedded with a gang in New York over a period of time, and like he learned the whole business structure of how it worked and how basically that the drug enterprise, or was it Chicago? I don't remember. Either way, it was the whole enterprise is essentially a business with the guys at the bottom earning not that much money, but the bosses at the top were earning much more. So it's a whole business structure, and it's funny because after I finished reading it, you, Chris, you did that Business Outlaws podcast with Freeway, Rick Ross.
Rick Ross?
Yeah, and he went into how his structure worked and how he interviewed potential candidates and how his structure worked and his incentives and all that stuff. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it ends up if the product you're selling is addictive, business grows fast.
That is true. That is true.
If it's highly addictive, did we talk on there about how you just give out free samples?
He did talk about that.
It's crazy, right? The one in Freakonomics that really made me see things a little different was the gamification one, and I think that was Chicago, where they gamify teachers on their students, and they paid them cash, and they found that in most situations where you do gamification, you pay cash, the cheating is about 15%. Like even school teachers would cheat for cash.
That was a good book.
Yeah, it's great.
They have a podcast too. Did you know that, Jeremy?
I did not know that.
The guy actually has a podcast, so he's trying to relate to things that are more recent as well.
They also made the documentary.
Yeah, did they? I didn't see the documentary.
It's a brand.
Insightful
It's a
stuff.
whole thing.
Yeah.
It's good. What are you reading, Adam?
I just started reading Sweetness regarding Walter Payton.
Ooh,
I figured, yeah. So
Sweetness.
I'm at the entry levels, just trying to keep the sports theme alive since we're still waiting
the Chicago sports theme alive.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're right now for the NHL trying to see if we're gonna do 24 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
you know what I
Hawks-
didn't see on that chart when they announced that yesterday?
What?
The LA Kings,
Yeah, but Blackhawks might be on there.
probably.
But yeah, so Sweetness, I'm just starting off right now, kind of how he grew up. So I'm really interested into seeing somebody so great on and off the court or off the field, and he was just always hearing around when I was growing up from my parents that he had no reason but to just stop by and say hi to people that were just while they're driving by. He never had he had a persona about him, but he never let that get in the way of things. So he'd stop by at any random person on the road just to see how their day was. And it's kind of interesting just to see in the light of how he was raised, with his family being so poor down in the South, and just kind of growing out to adapt and overcome out of things that he could control versus things that he couldn't control. Right, there's a lot of racism from when he was growing up in their area, I believe in Mississippi. So that was really kind of interesting. I'm at that portion. But he's at a portion where they're talking about high school sports and football. And he wasn't overall the biggest kind of guy, but a lot of it was due to his coaching. And right now I'm at a point where they're talking about his brother. His brother is very athletic. But there's something about Walter that coaches saw in him that was just a little bit different. I think when we talk about managing and looking and going forward to this new norm, it's going to be that little differentiator, and doing things just a little bit different that we can truly succeed and improve our overall performance out there at our dealerships as well. But and of course Peyton, my newly born daughter. Is a week old. Her name is Peyton, so this kind of sparked.
Did you name her after Sweetness?
No, I can't go on record in saying that. But when I was holding her in my arms, there was some sweetness.
Okay, so I'm a trained interrogator, right?
Yes.
I'm certified as an interrogator, and you just lied.
Hey, I'm innocent.
You just did 3 different things that told me that you lied. So why can't you go on record? What does that mean?
I was told that we cannot name her after. Well, it should not be totally related to Walter Payton. So
who told you this? Who told you this?
My significant other.
So we named her Peyton.
I'm gonna get
this is confusing.
Okay, so it's either between. So she's going to watch this someday. So it's between Peyton and Charlotte, right? But we wanted to see when she was born, is it Peyton or Charlotte? We definitely, the 2 nurses in the room, one spelled it with an A, one spelled it with E, like Peyton Manning. So it was 50-50. When she came out, she definitely came out as a Peyton. And if I'm going to spell it, the right way, it's going to be with an A, Walter Payton.
There you go.
So yeah, there's a slight.
So you spelled hers with an E.
No, with an A.
Oh, so you spelled okay. So it's spelled the same. You're reading a book about it.
Well, and I'm a Bears
So she's
fan.
so her nickname's going to be Sweetness.
Sure.
It needs to be.
Right now.
What's cuter than a little girl that looks like you and her nickname's Sweetness?
Well, last night she wasn't so sweet. Very little.
Well,
sweet.
yeah, but give her a couple weeks. She's just.
No, she's darling.
She's like, just a couple days ago, I was inside this like warm oven. I didn't have to do anything. Now I got to work. I got this bright like.
Oh yeah. No, she's sweet. She's a sweetheart. But yeah, we're excited.
Weeks.
So Peyton's gonna be a little sweetheart for sure. So it's exciting. But yeah, that's my little story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like Peyton. It's better than naming her Ditka.
Yeah, that wouldn't be so good.
Or the fridge. Or McMahon. You can name a girl McMahon, right? That's not as cute as Peyton. I think Peyton's cute.
Yeah. Well, she's a feisty little one, and she's gonna be tough for sure. So.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't understand why your wife wants to hide that from the world. It's clear as day.
I don't even have to
be a detective and it's clear as day. The book you're reading is, right, Jeremy? Did you have to connect a lot of dots there?
It wasn't a really big illogical step for me. No.
Yeah.
I was just hoping it wasn't Peyton Manning because.
What's more concerning is that you think we're not smart enough to figure that out.
Like, he's just covering his bases. That's all.
Just got to cover them.
Yeah, but we got to bring your wife on here and talk to her about this because this doesn't make sense. So this, I've gone back to this book. There's probably this is Michael Craig Martin's On Being an Artist. The reason why I went back to this book is because I've been going really deep into Joseph Albert's Yale class on color. By the way, this has nothing to do with anything that you guys are going to be interested in, but I'm telling you what I'm reading. Joseph Albert's, who's a famous artist, taught at Yale for a couple years about color. He had these crazy concepts that he did, and they made these 2 books that are like collector's items. They're like $1,000 for him on color. And I have those books, and I've been reading them again because just his philosophy, like, it crosses over. Michael, who's one of my favorite artists, took that class at Yale, and he ended up being the professor of Damien Hirst. Later on in England, he taught Damien Hirst. And so he goes into in detail here what he learned in the class. So now that I've read the book, I'm going back to this to go through it again. But that's what I'm doing. Which probably, like I said, of no interest, but that's where I'm at.
Well,
That's
is
very
that
cool.
like the inner relations of color you're learning? Like what colors to use and when and what they mean? Like, I don't know anything about being an artist, so I don't know how to do any of that.
Oh, man. So he starts off, he talks about the color red. So if I put up red right now, well, I don't know, this back here is kind of red. Well, he gives the example if you put the Coca-Cola logo up for people and then later ask them which color red is the Coca-Cola color, most people get it wrong. Your perception of color has so much to do with the lighting, your previous experiences, the context of what it's on. So if it's on aluminum versus canvas, and so everybody perceives color differently. And then he shows these tricks how when you layer different colors together, they look completely different than what they really are. So he can make 3 colors look like 2. There's all kinds of things that happen because the way we process things isn't what it really is. So it's fascinating. But I'm writing this book on leadership, right? So I'm actually finishing the course that we're going to put up for all the managers on leadership. And one of the things that I have a hard time with when I'm teaching leadership is this idea that there's laws of leadership. Like that leadership is so simple that if you do A, B happens. It isn't like that. Leadership is more like martial arts. It's a practice. It's an art. So it's a high art, right? Like when somebody's a good leader and you go to their business and the customer service is amazing and the food's amazing, that's high art. That doesn't happen by accident. There's no like, do this happens. It's practice. It's feedback loops. It's trial and error. It's constant improvement. The people that you have matter and their view on things and their context and how you train them. And like, it's a complicated thing so I'm calling it the Dharma of leadership, not the laws. And I make that point up front that these things are things to be practiced. And, everybody always has a question like, can you train leadership? Like, are you born a leader? Adam, are you born a leader or can you learn to be a leader?
I think you can learn to be a leader in most cases, right?
Some people are a little further ahead, but yeah.
I like that point though. I really do. I think that's important. It's always practicing. You always have to practice. There's always different people. Billy talked about who moved my cheese. It's simple, but you always have to continuously practice all those different leadership skills. I don't think anybody truly 100% masters it because you'll always be faced with something slightly a little bit different that you're like, okay, I think this is similar to what I've came across before, but it might be totally different.
Well, yeah, and so that goes back to the Joseph Albert's thing of the color red, right? So also, like maybe I'm a really good leader at running a dealership, but then you go say, hey, Chris, go run a pharmaceutical company. The lighting's different, the context is different, the way the financial statements work. Like I remember when I was buying a dealership when I was younger, going around to banks trying to get a loan to buy a dealership, and they would look at the financials and they go like, this doesn't make sense. And to them, they'd been looking at software, pharmaceutical, bars, restaurants, in automotive or transportation. Like, let's say you sell 25 international trucks in a month at a dealership, and the average price is $100,000. The margins are tiny, but margins in pharmaceutical are like 60%. They can't get over the fact that you'd move $100,000 and only make $5,000. Right? So the context is different in different businesses. And so I was going back to that to try to come back to the leadership training when I was writing it, because I want to be able to articulate that point that leadership is a craft that you practice and you're constantly getting better at. You never arrive. You never put, like you were just saying, you never put your feet up on the desk and you're like, I won. I'm just a badass leader no matter what in any situation. Like, you want me to go coach a basketball team? Yeah, I'm a natural leader, but I'm going to have to learn some stuff because it's a completely different. I got these punk kids coming out of college that are making $5 million a year. It's a lot different than managing a service advisor. They got an agent. They think that they should be starting, right? Like, they're on their phones texting. They go, I'm a brand. I got to be on Instagram, right? That's totally different than managing a shop of technicians. And so, yeah. So that's actually why I was going back to that, because I was trying to figure out a way to articulate that in the training that is like, hey, this is something that even if you're not good today, if you practice and you learn and you make it a journey, not a destination, you can become a good leader over time.
It's crucial.
I just went on I'm sorry, I went on a rant, but
that was awesome.
I get excited about this kind of stuff, Jeremy.
I like to get you excited, Chris.
Like Jeremy's like, yeah, I'm great. You're excited. Okay, could you move on to the next?
Hold on, Chris, real quick. How are you doing with Pet the Dog? You're writing that book too as well, right?
Yeah. So I got off of that for the leadership thing, but I wrote 2 new chapters that segue it. So if I could sit for a week, I could finish it. It's close. It's good. I got some good stories in there. Are you more excited about Pet the Dog or leadership?
Honestly, both. But I've got all these books that I need to like read and get.
Well, you can throw that one.
Oh
that one's a paperweight. You haven't read those?
I just got them. Finally in the mail. You know, since we were starting this and I have all this time, you know, I just figured I'd just start reading.
Read the
at
yellow one. Read the yellow one. That one's good.
I'm gonna start reading it to Peyton, you know, so to start learning at a young age. Got to start him young.
Let's we should start talking to Mr. Roberts here.
He's having too much fun.
Hey, Billy.
I've ate up too much of the energy in the room.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
Teach us something, Billy.
Billy, tell us about indirect time.
Indirect time is a thing that has to be managed very well, because indirect time is basically lost revenue or potential net profit. You take an average of $135 an hour labor rate. Every minute that is booked to indirect is $2.25. Mm-hmm. You take 5 minutes and it's $11.25. So you got to manage indirect time, and there's several ways of managing it. One is having a good service advisor team or a good management team that goes out, finds the work, keeps the shop busy where we don't have indirect time. Mm-hmm. Most of our mechanical shops, truck shops, are hourly based, not commission based. If it was commission based, you wouldn't have a problem. You wouldn't have indirect time, because nobody wants to stand around and not get paid. But an hourly shop, if they don't have a ticket in front of them on a repair order, then they got to be doing something else or standing around. So it's a part of management to keep that up. There's two ways of checking indirect, and the way I've always did it is you take what I used to call in my days is production, is the hours that's put on a repair order, and what is sold off the repair order is what you hold the technician accountable for. That is his ability to perform his job based on the time you allow him to do it. The other part of it is hours worked versus hours billed. The difference between the two numbers is now the management is in part of that scenario. And if we have a great tech team, but a poor management team, then your indirect time will probably go up. So every month when your P&L comes out, it should be a separate line. You should be able to determine it. And a lot of shops will take a line or a repair op based on your DMS system. And if a technician doesn't have anything to do, or you're putting in paint in the shop or fixing a tool, whatever, you define
Guys, I got a
it.
humanitarian story for you. So
You're killing us.
I was walking down the street the other day and I saw a homeless guy, and I thought that I'd share a bag of chips with him. He pushed me away and told me to get my own bag.
You should have got your own bag.
Hey, Christian.
Yeah.
Christian. 'Cause since you're from our area, you know, the good area, can you admit on air that Portillo's is better than In-N-Out? I wanted to drive that point because you've had both.
Oh wow, that's a weird exit off the freeway.
My gosh.
So you want to compare a simple burger joint to Portillo's that has like 5 different menus, 27 different lines to wait in.
No,
I didn't
there's
say it was
only
fair.
one line, and it's
No, you could go to
consistent.
that section, like
You can have 25 different meals from Portillo's.
it's like the buffet
And
at
they're
Bellagio.
all great.
And then you can have a chocolate shake at the end and a piece of cake. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Jeremy, have you had In-N-Out Burger?
I ate it right next to you. That's
Oh, that's right. When you were out here,
It's
Um,
it's so good. It's not a fair question. I'm still gonna go with Portillo's, but In-N-Out Burger
you,
is no
Christian.
slouch. I'll say that.
as long as we admit together that Portillo's is better. I'm
do.
sorry, Christian, and I'm taking us out of the conversation, but it was important to me that we talked about this on the
Mr.
air.
Roberts was talking about the silent killer, indirect time. What do you think, Bill? What do you think the average shop is out there for proficiency?
I'm gonna say in the mid 80s for proficiency. The average shop, if you put them all together.
And what do you think the average shop has? How many technicians?
It varies. In my area, it varies greatly from 6 technicians up to 18 and 19 technicians. I mean, it varies greatly in my
What would the
area.
average be? Like 11, 12?
I'd say 9, 8, 9. Yeah.
Okay, let's say 10 so we can do
Okay.
easy math.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're 20, they're losing 20%. So they're losing 20%, and you got 10 technicians. So that's 400 hours. If they were running at 100%, that's 400 hours a week, right?
Yep.
And so if you take 2 hours time each one of them, so what is that? 20 hours a week
20
that we're
hours a week.
losing?
Yep.
And then the average of effective labor, it's $100. So
Adds up quick.
it does. So what is that? So how much is that a week in indirect?
Be 220 times 10 is 200 hours. So of indirect,
So times $100, what is it?
$2,000.
So in a month's time, it's $8,000.
Yeah.
That's pretty generous. I think a lot of shops will realize more than that.
Well, you just double it, right? If you're at 60%,
Yep.
now it's 16,000 a month.
And that's a silent, like you said before, the silent killer. I'm afraid that a lot of managers doesn't look at it close enough. They think it's a necessary evil.
Mm.
It is, but we gotta manage it. I mean, like in today's times, the shops are slow. We should be doing things in indirect that give our customer a better experience with our dealership. Doing that type of stuff during indirect. But as the economy improves like it is now, then we really have to pay attention to our indirect, because now's the time to get that customer satisfied and get them in and out. I've heard a couple comments over the years that, well, we'll just let the technician stay on the job until the end of the day because we don't have nothing for him. No, that's not necessarily the right management skill. Right management skill is get the job done as quick as you can, get the customer back up and running on the road, and maybe something will come in, or I'll bring something in later on the day.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and turn that one around really quick that comes in, right?
Absolutely.
I'd rather have a guy standing ready to diagnose right away than have him buried on a job. But so you said something I think that is very insightful, but you kind of ran by it, is that if a shop isn't efficient and they have a lot of indirect time, would you be safe in assuming that their systems aren't that good?
Yeah.
Like, we have this saying, how we do anything's how we do everything. So
That's right.
You could imagine that if the most important part of the business is the shop, because that's what we're selling is time, and if that is inefficient and it's not important enough to us to focus on and figure that out, to work on it until we figure it out, then you can make the assumption that the customer experience, the receivable, there's just inefficiencies everywhere. If you're not focused on the one thing that's the most important thing, because let's face it, you never get that time back.
That's right. It's
Time
like
is a resource that is gone. Never get it back.
It's a block of ice. It's going to last for 8 to 10 hours, and then it's gone. You can't get it back.
Yep. And so if it's not important enough to make that a priority and to figure that out and work on it until you get to 100% and maybe even higher, then you probably are giving up inefficiencies in other parts of the business, which I think is what we all see, right? How we do anything is how we do everything.
And so there's one point just to tie off of that, because I know Billy, you and I have gone on some dealer visits ourselves, and when we look at indirect time and we look and we show service management teams that $8,000 to $10,000, the best thing that we can show them or educate them on is when we talk about their systems or inefficiencies. Guess what? To improve on those inefficiencies, it doesn't cost anything. It might just be a process gap analysis on trying to improve some of those little inefficiencies on just how we do this. Like you just said, how we do anything, right? How we do everything is how we do anything. A little vice versa. But that's where we see a lot of things, is that we just change a little bit here, a little bit there. It goes directly to the bottom line and we improve on that. And it doesn't cost anything. Majority of the time, just getting the start does not cost anything.
Having all the jobs ready at the beginning of the morning shift, have them laid out ready to go for the technician, instead of having them stand around waiting for you to give them a job. Put it in place for them. Stuff like that. It's the small things. If you can save 1/10 a day for all your technicians, say 10 technicians, be more efficient every day. Start with something small. You can't start with, we're going to go from 70 or 60%. We're going to go to 90. Let's go from 70 to 75. Then let's go from 75 to 80. And let's work up slowly. It's making a tangible goal that can be done. And simple as having a janitor pick up the drain pans and dump them instead of a technician. Technician only makes the company money when he's in that bay doing work on customer vehicles. Not painting the shop, not working on tools, not running up to the parts counter. And that's one of the biggest things that back in my day, we didn't even think about a back parts counter. But once we proved it, I'll put a time clock at the parts counter. So every time my technicians went to that parts counter, they punched the time clock. And when they got done, they punched off. And then I used that to show how valuable it would be for a parts guy to be walking up and down the floor. And it worked.
Yeah, make it a priority. Like
Yep.
a lot of people listening to this are super talented. The thing is make it a priority.
Absolutely.
Okay, then what are your thoughts on the P&L, the financial?
The P&L, uh, there's controllables on the P&L, what we call below the line, and there's non-controllables. The controllables is not a whole lot you can do. That's your rent, your electric bills, and your fixed costs. There's not much you can do. But the controllables are your comebacks, your tool purchases that you didn't plan for, um, bonuses and stuff like that. You need to really look at every line on your P&L monthly. And it really, if you don't understand it, go to your dealer principal, go to your CFO, and understand what makes that number. You cannot control it if you don't know what's involved in it. So you really, each line, every P&L is a little different. They kind of name things differently. So if you don't understand it, ask that question. Don't even, bad question is a question you don't ask. And once you determine what's in that P&L, what's on that line, then see if you could improve it. Can you do something with it? Because that's direct profit loss, whatever that is. And sometimes it is what it is, but you need to understand it. What's your variables? If you had a budget, you accounted for this and it's way off the budget, then let's dig in deep and figure out why. Did we make a mistake during our budget plan? Or did we something occur that was in our control, but we let it get out of control? It's
Yeah.
very important. We have to review it.
I think too, it's important how you frame it when you're asking, like you said, and a lot of times if you go to your office manager or your general manager or dealer and you say, "Hey, I'm trying to learn financials and understand them. Will you mentor me?" Always goes over way better than "What's in here? What's this?"
Absolutely.
Because an office manager kind of takes that as like, "Oh, you're poking around in my backyard and you're questioning things," instead of flipping it and saying, "Hey, teach me, I want to learn." Come at it a little more, with some humility, and the spirit of "I want to learn and get better" will always get you further than "What's this?"
Right. And they always hold the service managers accountable for their net profit. So if you're going to be accountable for something, you got to know what's going on, and you do have to ask the questions.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. I like that. I talked to, Billy, I talked to a guy who runs he's the fixed ops director of a group of a bunch of dealerships. And he didn't know his net to gross for the group. He goes, "Oh, I don't see the financial. They don't care about that." And I said, "I'm going to tell you one thing. First of all, we can't do business together because that's how I grade our success is your bottom line and the customer experience. But second of all, stop telling yourself they don't care, because I've never been in a general manager or dealer's office where the financial isn't within arm's length of where they are. And even though you're not seeing it, when they see that number and it's bad, they see your face."
Absolutely. And today's DMS system, dealer management system, are so easy to build a dashboard where you can see this immediately and watch it daily. And a lot of it worked. Back in my days, we had to do reports and you kept them piled up on your desk. But today is so easier to get someone to help you set up a report that you can monitor on a daily basis, and it will really help manage your departments.
What are the things that they should be looking at daily? What would you put on that dashboard? What are the big ones that come to mind?
Labor sold, outside purchases, um, part sales, uh, hours uh, hours the technicians worked, um, indirect hours. Um, you could get down to gross profit for the day of a closed tickets, but systems are so different now. Some you got to post them, some close immediately. So that's not real good on a daily basis. You really need to see your appointments, how many appointments you got coming in, what's scheduled, what's not scheduled. Um, your daily totals for the month, a month to day total, or how you're growing every month. Because if you got a budget, you got to break it down in days. You need to try to stay in a steady climb instead of you going up a little bit and all. Once you got to climb a big hill at the end, and that's what people did in my day. They held tickets to the end of the month, and then you had a great day in 2 days of the last of the month. But we need to be consistent. Them jobs need to be closed on a regular basis. So you need to look at that. Your outstanding labor, your whip hours, whip parts, stuff like that. You build it to what you think is right. It really determines on what you want to see on a daily basis. You're going to see it monthly anyway, but it needs to work for you. I can go in and say, this is what I see, but it may be a little different than what you want to see. So you need to build it to what you want to see. But take some advice from other service managers, what they see, you may see the benefit in your screen.
Yeah, it's good. That's great. That's awesome. Adam or Jeremy, you want to add anything to that before we wrap up?
I think Billy said it right. Perfect. I mean, doing all those, little things can add up to high dollar, of not only gaining efficiencies, but also the mindset of understanding what's going on as a broad operational standpoint of all the different lines of the business within the dealer, right? I like the portion about talking about parts sales, and not only the labor sales, parts and service, goes hand in hand, and that's something that needs to continue to grow within our service network. I think we all grow and get better together on those type of aspects, but understanding the financials and where it's going and what levers to pull is huge. That's what I'll end with. Go ahead, Jeremy. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay, Adam. It's okay. I know you're tired.
While you're thinking about that, Jeremy, the point too to that is not waiting until the end of the month to look, right? Like Billy's point is like look every day, because you're looking in the rear view mirror. If you're looking at it a month behind, get in front of it and be looking at it every day.
Very true. I really liked how you mentioned appointments, Billy. A lot of dealerships that I visit, that I've talked to, they don't really ever mention appointments. But you need to have a system for appointments that are coming in, a way for scheduling them. You can use 360. I think that's great for appointments. But whatever system you have, make sure you're using it and scheduling that work in so that your advisors understand the workload for the day, your technicians understand the workload for the day. And I think managing indirect time is just so critical because, like we mentioned earlier, your margin on new cars or new trucks is like 5%, 10%, something like that. But your margin on labor is 70%. That's a really huge. Service departments will carry dealerships through this time. If you can schedule work in correctly, if you can manage your workload. Service departments make the money. Parts departments make the money. As far as I'm concerned, sales is important, but it's parts and service that are going to get us through this, that are going to make the real money for dealerships. And that comes back to managing that indirect and making sure that you keep that shop full and that your technicians are billing the time that they work. It's so critical. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Billy. Thank you for sharing your expertise.
Good. Great show, you guys. That was fun.
Excellent. Sorry about the in and out comment, Chris. I had to talk about that.
Bro, I don't like you think there's some weird loyalty to in and out with me?
Yes, I think so. I think so. You brought it up on the first episode.
No.
It was a valid question.
Yeah, I'm not
in and out is a good place to eat.
It's a great burger.
The only time I've ever had Portillo's is for lunch, and the only thing there that I like is the garbage salad, which is kind of like a tossed salad. In and out's more of an evening thing most of the time. I know you and Christian have like some spicy Italian thing with a bunch of peppers on it and all that, but
the combo.
The combo. Good call, Billy.
I find that I go back to work after that and I need to take a nap.
Oh, jeez.
And it's got to be dipped. You got to have the gravy in it and everything like that. I just gained 9 pounds talking about it.
Yeah, you got to have it wet to dip the whole sandwich, man.
Yeah.
What do they dip it in?
It's like a
The
gravy.
au jus.
Best way
It's
to
the
do
au
it.
jus sauce.
Yeah.
The whole sandwich?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get it lightly dipped or full dunked. It's perfect,
Yeah, full
man.
dunk cut it with a knife and fork and eat
Doesn't
it.
all
Man.
the peppers and all that stuff fall out?
Hey,
That's not really a problem. You deal
It's not a
with it.
problem. You're eating it with a fork anyway.
you're eating a garbage salad, man. This is just more meat.
Yeah, you know what, Jeremy? I'm sorry you brought it up, Sue.
Hey, one little fun fact I don't think you guys noticed. Billy's actually from Chicago as well. The only
Yeah,
problem with him is he's a Cubs fan.
Yep.
That's
I
not
grew
a
up on
problem at all, Frank.
Sunnyside Avenue in Clark.
Do me a favor,
kidding.
Jeremy, when we get off this, go on Amazon. Have you heard of Amazon? They sell books.
I've heard.
Type
yes.
in In-N-Out Burger and see how many books come up written about In-N-Out Burger, and then do the same thing for Portillo's. And zero, I bet. Zero.
One. Dick Portillo wrote a book.
That is how we determine the best restaurant ever is the amount of books that we write about it.
Well, let's just say about In-N-Out. Like how many were written about, not the guy, doing some PR campaign, trying to avoid taxes in Florida. Because he did that too, right?
Yeah, he's been.
Why are people from Chicago so crooked?
It's in our. We have to be this way.
It started in the 20s, man.
It's what our stereotype is. How would we have to make sure that we're fulfilling our expectations here?
You're not letting anybody down.
Do you know why they call it the Windy City?
Yeah, because that wind coming off the lake goes through your soul, like piercing. Like I've never been colder in my life. Like your whatever you call them, your little chestnuts disappear up into your throat. Like you have 7 layers on, and you're just like it's like a knife. And then you walk inside, and then you got to take off all 7 layers, and then go back outside. You got to put all 7 layers back. Yeah, why do they call it the Windy City?
That's all the politics. Everything sways back and forth. That's really what it is.
Yeah. On that note, we will see you guys all next time on Service Driver with Sean.
Thanks, everybody.